Welcome to the High School Coaching Podcast. We're here with West Springfield High School coach Joel Aponte. He's been with the program 17 years, coach for 9 at the varsity level. We're really excited to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here as well.
Well, glad to have you. And you know, this podcast is designed to help coaches and players learn a little bit more about the inner workings of high school basketball, coaching style, leadership style, building culture, program dynamics, what you're looking for in players. We have a little bit of a diverse audience here, and so we really want to just pick your brain today and get some feedback from you so we can learn a little bit more.
Glad that I can give back in some sort of way, I should say.
So what got you into coaching?
Well, I come from Windsor High School, which I have to give a lot of credit to my high school coach, Ken Smith, a legend in the high school coaching ranks. He saw something in me where, I love basketball, so I played and, as a leader on my teams the last couple of seasons, my junior, my senior year, even when I wasn't a captain, I always felt like I was a captain.
Right.
I always carried myself in that manner. And then as my senior year, he really gave us the opportunity to coach ourselves in the summer and things like that. And then, after high school, when I went to play at Springfield, he gave me the opportunity to, coach one of the U teams. And, I was still a little young then, but I really appreciated that. And, and when after I just kind of finished my career at Springfield, West Springfield opened up, so I was fairly young, and I became a head assistant there. So it was kind of one thing right after the other, but I think everything you do, kind of gets you ready for that point, even if it's not so much part of the hoop scene. But so that's kind of how I got into it.
So long history in basketball. You played basketball. You kind of grew up with it. You had a lot of great mentors.
Yep.
What was the thing you talked about your mentors and them giving you some leadership opportunities? What was the value in that? What did you learn from that?
Yeah, I think when you're younger, you don't realize how impactful some of these folks are in your life, like your coaches. But I knew right away that he was just a great person. He helped guide me. I really just didn't really have a future plan when I was young. Especially in high school, I kind of just wanted to play hoops, and within me playing and him advising me to go into different camps and things like that. It really gave me some notoriety among some other coaches and some college level coaches, and it gave me an opportunity to get an education at a good price. Even if Division III was able to get some opportunity for me in play. So I think just being exposed to some of these things that are out there.
And so you've taken the program a long way. When you're 9 years of coaching, last year was a darn good year. You were 17-5 overall. Right? You ended up 13th out of 71 teams in Division II. You were in the Western Mass quarterfinal. You beat Putnam.
Mm-hmm.
It's a signature win, right? I think
that was a huge win. Huge win.
Close game.
Very close game. They have great athletes. They have great coaching. Obviously Lou Rose there now.
Right.
He's a wealth of experience bringing that to that school. That's a great addition to the city of Springfield. So it was awesome. And then even after that, playing Minichog, who's well coached as well. They've had great teams. Minichog's one of those teams that I think if they didn't have some of those guys leave to the prep schools, we'd be discussing some different things.
Sure.
I think they had some great potential there.
Sure.
But it was just all-out battles, and it was awesome.
Your year was full of close games, competitive games, high caliber, quality basketball. What was the one thing when you look back on that year that you remember the most?
The leadership that we had amongst our seniors was one of those things that we had committed to early on. So, when I first took over the job, we were 5-15. After essentially losing to Putnam in the Western Mass Finals. We've always had great guards. With Chris Gerber and I, we had those 8-year run was amazing. I think we had probably like 20 losses in those 8 years total, which was amazing. And then to go after that, then we didn't have school choice anymore.
Right.
So it was a very much a rebuilding year. And then you learn, and it ebbs and flows with the student athletes. So when my seniors were freshmen, we committed to just say, hey, you know what, let's, in terms of, judging the talent and the risk reward, say you're going to suffer. And, and then COVID happened, which kind of gave us more of an opportunity to say, hey, let's commit to these youngsters. And it really paid out because they had experience. They're just really good humans, more than anything. They were great students. Right. And they really took on the lead. I really like to, kind of like how my high school coach tell me, let them take ownership of what it is. And you see those fruits, bloom.
So you talked about playing your players early, maybe some freshmen, sophomores. You were really committed to the long game and trying to develop that, which says that really for you it was all about what those players were bringing from a leadership standpoint and a skill standpoint, no matter what grade they were in. Nothing was given. Right. And at 17-5, it sort of proved your point, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of even our administration maybe might have questioned it a little bit, but when you're able to just sit down and talk to your administration and say, hey, look, but this is what my thoughts are, and when you're basically you're assessing, as coaches we assess everything from the beginning to the end. We're assessing and then you have these young players that are really committed to playing basketball. And they want to get better every time. It's an easy, and then when you see, I think the year before that, like 14-6, I can't remember off the numbers like that. Right. But we've had 3 winning seasons, and then that COVID year, we had one senior guard who was our football quarterback, just like a natural leader. Sure. And he and it was something that we had to communicate, like you have to help some of these guys in turn if you want to be successful, because we're still pretty young. And at that COVID year, we ended up winning the last 5 out of 6 games, and then that carried on.
Sure. A lot of momentum, a lot of trust in each other, a lot of anticipation that and confidence that you're gonna deliver that next year, and leadership from now it's senior level, right? Yeah. So you had four seniors that were and you bring it back to juniors too, so you're not done yet, obviously. Right. And how do you when you look at the off season, obviously there's certain restrictions in that, but there's summer league, and a lot of that off season work is done by themselves. Yep. I'm assuming that you're seeing whether it's your captains bringing guys along to the park or at the gym or open gyms at night or summer league or even AAU now club basketball. Right. So there's a lot of that mix that you're probably seeing with your players, and what is your support around that, and what is your guidance to them before they leave? Yeah, so I like that there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, and especially if they're engaging with it. If they're engaging with it, that's great, as long as they're doing something. I try to have some level of connection with them, so we do the summer leagues, we did a fall league, and we have multi-sport athletes at West Springfield High School. We're not, I think this past year we had 3 basketball players, and that's all they really did, which helped us tremendously too. But we have a lot of multi-sport athletes, so I want to make sure that we respect their time with their other sports. Right. So we do the summer league, we do the fall league, and then we try to immerse whoever is not playing a sport, encourage them to, hey, come play, especially if they played it within our system as a freshman. They're not doing anything. We like to have those folks around. Sure. But we encourage them. We have had some open gyms for not only our players but for everyone in the town who wants, as much as we can. With all the restrictions, and we just try to keep, a text thread just to keep that communication going, just so you can be aware of what's going on. And now you can follow some of these guys on social media and see what they're up to. So you mentioned there's a lot of new coaches out there. There's players looking to find what that secret sauce is so they get more playing time, whether that's an early or later within their development. In terms of your culture, what's the kind of culture and value system and feel of your program? How would you describe what the players walk into every practice every day?
Yeah, I try to keep a lot of consistency. I think we demand respect. I think stemming from your school, your teachers, we demand consistency on their part. And also the continued learning. We have a lot of stuff going on, and you have to have the ability to learn and really run with it. We just try to provide a culture where guys can speak up, where if somebody says something, that we're respectful to others' voices. It shouldn't just be the coaches talking. It should be this is I'm just I'm like the leader of the team, per se. But I always tell them this is your team. So if somebody has to say, so we want to make sure that everybody has equal say.
Sure.
That we're being one, good students, but good student athletes with each other, creating a family environment as much as we can, and just knowing that that it's not an easy task. This is going to be something that
you got to work for.
Yeah, and as coaches, we're passionate about, and hopefully they're passionate about, and we're going to push them to the most that we can to try to get the best out of them, and that's kind of what they learn.
I was listening to a podcast with Steve Kerr. And one of the things that he was saying when he was interviewed for the position before he coached the Warriors, it was that he was a joyous person, that he wanted to have joy within his team and in practice environment, game environments. But his point was, if you want that joy, you have to exhibit that joy and create that joy, be joyful. So the personality of the coach and your assistants. And your administration obviously is showing through every single day.
Yeah.
And I would assume that type of culture is creating a platform for you to develop your players.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, I have to give a lot of credit to my coaches because, I've been the consistent person, and I'm who I am. You know what I mean? Right. I am. I'm generally a more serious person, and that's just and sometimes I have a good time, but I let my guys have a good time. But then I've had an opportunity to, interview and hire some coaches that, are a little bit not like me.
Right.
So I think having the diversity of coaches, from my assistant who's my JV guy, now he's my assistant, and then we have a great JV coach as well, and into the freshman coaches that we have now. Everyone wants to be involved, and we're all very different, which is really good. And it's really good when you're sitting in a varsity game and you're just listening to all their perspectives. Like I said, I like giving everyone a voice and hearing everyone. I don't want to be the one. I'm talking a lot now.
What are some of the team building stuff that you do throughout the year that you think adds value to the program?
We've been able to, this past season, and again, we've had some great parents that has helped support us. We've been doing like our golf fundraiser, where it's actually on Sunday, where we do some of that just to have some funds to do some of these things together. We did the Basketball Hall of Fame. We do our Hoops for Food stuff, where we kind of everyone brings in food donations for the West Springfield Food Bank. I know the Frontier's been part of that in the past. Hopefully you guys can be a part of that if you can. But things like that, we've gone to, we haven't done a lot of trips, but we do a lot of meals together at the school after practice, and cut practice early.
Gotcha.
Might get some donuts before practice on a Saturdays, and just kind of spend quality time together, talking, let the kids talk. Then you kind of listen and you gauge where they're at.
So it's really a holistic program. I mean, there's a lot going on other than X's and O's. And I heard one time that says that most of basketball isn't really about X's and O's. It's about all the other stuff, right? It's about culture. It's about leadership. Yeah. It's about program and dynamics and teamwork. And you seem to, from a coaching standpoint, you talked about your assistants. You have very diverse. Talk to me about your style in terms of them managing up and you being open to various situations or ideas that they may have. Because I'm assuming that you're looking at some of your assistant coaches as the next generation perhaps, or maybe they move on somewhere else, another opportunity.
Yeah, I always let them be themselves. I always let everyone be themselves. Like I said, I am who I am and they are who they are. Right. And, and that diversity is really good for any program, for any workplace. So I kind of let them do them, and if there's things that come up that then we kind of check in private or something like that, and and some what a supervision would be. But in general, that's just kind of just checking in and say, hey, or checking after the game, and then I always encourage them to do whatever they can, and if they want to make this decision, then I'll listen to it. And again, I might not always agree to all the things that they want, but I try to be flexible. And if it really works out, I always give it a try.
Sure.
In terms of wants to do like some different drills, things like that.
Sure.
Go right ahead. Let's do that. We have room for that. We have time for it. And if it works, great. We'll keep doing it. If it doesn't, then I'm sorry. We'll
be
just
flexible.
move on. Yeah.
Be flexible. What do you feel makes a great coach?
I think someone who's always learning. I think you have to be open to learning new things. We've dived into some new times in terms of like even in the social media stuff that's new. You have to be open to all this stuff. You have to be consistent in who you are, consistent in giving the players an opportunity to be themselves. Really, holding your standards, whether there be promptness to practice, just having just little things that you follow. We have like a little guidelines that we like to follow, and everything else kind of scatters, but we can stick on these. So I'm a believer in that, and I think for me, you have to have some level of experience, whether it's being a player, having great mentors, so all that, and I think all that kind of makes it. And what makes great coaches is great players. If you got some good players, generally they make it look good. So to create an environment where people do want to play for you, that you don't have guys quitting, to foster an environment that's welcoming, and that's motivating others, being able to push them, but also appreciate them and applaud them. I think that's something that I do well. Is I'm an intense person when it comes to being within the lines in the gym. But if I say you got to do something, I always say how good of a job you did it. Just as enthusiastic as if I was really upset and just.
So it seems like your players know where they stand.
Yeah.
They know at every moment. I'm assuming there's a constant communication that you have throughout the year, and we'll get into that. In terms of your philosophical approach, maybe you can start by weaving that into what's your philosophy, and we can get into some basketball specific. But what's your philosophy, and how do you weave that communication process and that expectation level with your players throughout the year?
So, I basically, we tell them, what we expect. Every year we do give out a handout, even for our returning guys, just kind of highlighting. What we expect, how we want to, how we want to present ourselves in the community, because as basketball players, as student athletes, you're representing your community. You have this, so we want to make sure that they understand that they also understand, like, hey, if I mess up, there might be some consequences, and then letting the parents know that as well. So kind of giving them this, and also. I try to be as fair. I was a kid too, and I've made my fair share of mistakes. So, just knowing that it's not the end of the world. I try to keep an open door policy, and I encourage folks to come in and talk to me. So I just try to do a little bit of that.
So, from a game planning standpoint, you have a certain system that you sort of can say somewhat consistent with.
Yep.
And if you do, how do you adapt to the different players that you have coming through? Because I'm sure that you're constantly evaluating that.
Yeah.
If you had everybody that was over 6'5", that would be a different scenario. But how do you weave the two together based on personnel and your own coaching style?
So for me, I tried to stay, so offensively we try to stay consistent. Defensively, we try to stay consistent within our principles. And I think that we have, for our offense, we have different variations of things that can be mixed up, whether you have two small guards, things like that. But, everyone can set a solid screen. Everyone can box out. Everyone can be in the lane and take a charge. So we have a lot of the same principles, and I think, and we coach every day, trying to prepare for whatever a defense can give us and whatever an offense can give us. So we try to be as prepared as possible, and while also providing an environment where our players can continue to refine their skills, can do these things within all these things.
So you're really not starting from fresh every year. You're really incorporating some of the core elements from your prior years, especially as you grow your younger players.
Yeah.
They're aware of what that expectation is, what that program looks like, and then you're weaving in. When you start the year, you have a very short window in the MIAA. You have a very short window before your first game. Are you game planning right off the rip, or are you just talking more basic concepts? And does that depend on your personnel and who you're bringing back?
For me at West Springfield, we try to make sure first things first is that when we do go through our selection process. There's I always say our captains have a spot. Everybody else has to earn it.
Right.
And generally, our captains are seniors. We've had some junior seniors in the past, but those guys have a slot. So we have to do our assessment process first, and then we get back into like what can really, you can be in any dogfight if you have a really good defensive structure.
Sure.
If you have your defensive principles intact right away, where you can not only defend but box out, rebound.
Right.
I think those are the most important. And one of my good friends who passed away, who coached with me at Westside, he was the JV coach, Ben Ellis. He always says, rebounding in high school basketball has got to be one of the most important things.
Sure.
So I try to focus on the defense and the rebounding because guys can make some shots,
Right.
So you can get lucky with some of that stuff. And if you're in a dogfight, whoever gets the most stops generally wins those games. You might get lucky with a flick of the wrist here.
So does that mean you're a defensive, let's hold them to the least amount of possessions, or are you more offensive minded? Or you shot a lot of threes this year.
Yeah.
A lot of threes. So how do you balance that?
So I think that, yes, I'm more of a defensive minded coach.
Okay.
I'm more defensive minded coach. I think if you have a really good defense, you can get away with a lot of different things.
Right.
In high school basketball, you don't always have a stud that's going to score 20 points a game. Right. Again, we're you're kind of churning through. We can't recruit players, so you can't recruit anyone to have. So you kind of have who you have, who's there at your school, who's willing, to have the good grades enough to participate and has that encouragement from their family.
Sure.
So I think having everybody can play good defense. If you do that, then offensively, you have your sets, your different offenses to kind of go against what the defense is giving you. And I think, then you assess who, we had guys that like to shoot the ball. So we did a lot of that in practice.
Right.
And we had some guys that could knock down some shots.
Sure.
But we also had some guys that could really take it to the rack and finish in the paint. So I think that's easier to kind of, shape a little bit and see how it plays out versus like, I have more wiggle room on offense than on defense. If you really can't play defense, then it's going to be hard.
It's kind of a non-negotiable for you. Really.
That's a non-negotiable for me. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you can't stand in there and take a charge, that's my expectation.
Right.
So those are like, so I tell my players, that's how you get off the bench is show me that you can really play some defense because at least you won't hurt me. Things like that.
Now, it seems as though you have roles for your players, and they really understand that. You talked about the communication process earlier, which they know their disposition and their role on the team. So you're utilizing those roles. Do you have a certain set lineup? Are you flexible? Do you manage to the game situation with your personnel and not understanding, hey, this guard is only coming in for this? How do you manage your rotations and your personnel throughout the season? So
I like consistency. I think when I make a starting five, generally I try to have a starting five that I'm going to put it against everyone.
Right.
If I have five guys that are really good, I'm going to play my five guys that are really good. Right. Again, with what our teams are constructed with what we have. If you have six guys that are really good, then that's your rotation.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Especially at this level where, we're at the varsity level.
Right.
We're at the highest level that a lot of these guys are going to play basketball. Sure. So, I'm like that. I was asking the coaches, what do you think?
Right.
What do you think? We have three other coaches on the sideline, and as a head coach, you're not always in tune to all the little things that happen. So I asked that they're kind of vibing in a different area, and then, hey, just let me know. Like, hey, is this guy really, messing up right now? Let me know, or send somebody in. And if I don't want that to happen, then I'll be like, oh, let's wait on that. But I try to give them the voice that I want to make sure that I hear them, and that
Gotcha.
I'm listening to them, and so it all ebbs and flows.
And throughout the year, as you develop your program and you maybe see some of the same teams twice, I'm imagining you're looking at film, you're even looking at different end of game situations where you might not be able to practice that early on in the season. What are some of the mistakes maybe that you've made that you could correct, or what are some of the positives that you've seen as a result of that season-long build?
Yeah, I think you have to watch teams play other teams,
right,
especially the ones that you're playing with, because you notice this coach is playing this guy this certain way,
Sure.
and to me it'd be like, get up on him, maybe you got to step off of him a little bit, or something like that he's doing and it's effective. So I think you have to be open. You have to be open and be able to see with different things. I love watching film. I think film is a big part of what we do, and I think that for us, if we can practice all the little fundamentals that makes the team good, we should be able to compete with anyone.
Sure.
And then you kind of start tweaking in-game situations. So this is what we need to do, and you're talking to your players, hey, and hopefully that they're able to, get what you're saying, and then, put it out there, and implement it while the game is going on. So I think that, being able to see teams, if you see them, you have to learn your lessons. Right. And we do, we try to watch them after every game. And just get better. If you're not trying to get better every day in practice, then you're wasting your time.
Sure. What just as we sort of wrap up here, what's a key takeaway from last season?
Having a little adversity and managing it, and having leaders really step up. I think our captains did an amazing job, and I want to make sure that they get the credit that they deserve, because we only win 17 games because of them, because of their want to get better, because they wanted to be in the gym in the off season getting better, and then helping me help carry my voice within the team. So I think we had a great group of guys that were committed, that wanted to do the work, and then had a good fun time winning. Winning is always fun. And again, it was, so I want to say just being able to get into the Western Mass Finals,
And you see some value in the Western Mass. I mean, there used to be the cage,
Yeah.
Now we have still have Western Mass tournament, and we have the state tournament, and you see a lot of value in that.
I do. I thought that the way it gets, the way you get seated for it, might be able to get some adjusting to. I thought that we probably should have been one of the top 18 the year before, and we were just bumped out. Which was frustrating, but it's a learning lesson. Which is fine. So I do play ball, and it's a great opportunity to be in a different setting before the finals. But
that's why you play, right?
But that's why you play.
For those opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing more than you can ask for, to be in that position, and you put your team in that position, and your players did, right? So as I end, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Hopefully you don't mind. We're going to have a little bit of fun, but you get a choice, and hopefully you can pick one. But if you can't, maybe explain why. Bird or Magic?
You got to go with Bird. Just ferocious shooter. I mean, I think his mentality. He's probably one of them. And the kids in our time now, they're going. They're forgetting about one of the greatest players of all time. He was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just amazing, everything he could do with the basketball. He shot the ball amazing, but he did so many other things, and he was tough as nails.
LeBron or Curry?
Wow, that's a tough one. LeBron changed the game, so did Curry. I think they both equally have had a huge impact on basketball. When LeBron came out, everybody was trying to dunk on each other and and be aggressive like that. And then when Steph came out, everybody's shooting the tray ball. So they both had equal impact.
Changed the game.
Oh, they both had.
Both changed the game. Yeah. Fair enough. So we'll go back in time a little bit from a high school level. Dana Barros or Travis Best?
Oh, I'd have to go with Travis Best, because I didn't get a good feel. I gotta say, be honest, I know Dana Barros, but I didn't I followed more Travis.
Last question is, even today, as a coach, play or coach? Get on the floor and ball still, or coach?
I love coaching. Coaching is awesome. Especially having an impact on young people and helping them chase their dreams and being there when they come back and
right.
I try to help someone whatever they need. I always tell them that I'm always here for them.
Sure. Well, thank you for joining the high school coaching podcast. West Springfield coach Joel Aponte. My name is Josh Morse. Can't thank you enough for being here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir.